Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Yes Go. And I have with me, this is Coach A.M. Williams, and I have with me is Coach Eleni Anastos, and we were just getting into the conversation about the things that, how people grew up and perceived money, how they watched their influential figures, whether it be mom and dad or aunt, someone that they respected. Their experiences with money was shaped by these, early mentors, if you will, so to speak, on that. And we were just talking about the kind of things that people deal with. And ultimately, Lenny, we're really talking about people's money stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we all have one.
Yeah, so take a moment and let's just speak to that, the money story.
Yeah. Well, it's what you're believing about money. And again, it absolutely connects to how you grew up, what you were exposed to. And I absolutely mean no disrespect, because I think the vast majority of people do the best they can with what they have or what they know. But if you have a limiting belief connected around money, I mean, we can't succeed beyond our current beliefs. So if you're stuck in that money story that, well, I'm just going to have to work too hard, too many hours, it won't be worth it. Or people are never going to pay me what I'm worth, so why bother? Or how can I charge fees higher than someone else? The comparison-itis thing. So there's so many facets to that money story. But if you stay stuck in that, in those limiting beliefs, then absolutely, you're not going anywhere. You can't succeed beyond your current beliefs.
Well,
you have to be willing.
and I want to take a moment. I want to take a moment and speak to that right there, because the dynamic, I mean, we see people who win the lottery, right?
Yes.
And we know about the horror stories about them being broke again in 5 years or less and things of that nature. We want to talk about how much the money story, how big of a role does the money story play in this particular, in these instances? Because one of the things that I notice when I'm working with coaches, consultants, or service-based professionals, period, is that they say they want to make more money, but they can't ask for it. Like they're totally frightened of it. Or whenever people get money, the first thing they feel they need to do with it is they start taking inventory of everybody they owe, or like they're trying to find ways to get rid of it.
Yes.
What is behind that ideology?
Well, some people have what I call the Teflon effect. Maybe they're able to make a sale, they're able to draw money into them, but because they've got that negative old money story, like Teflon, it's going right back out the door, shortly after they've come to them, because they don't realize, okay, great, I just made a big sale, I just closed, I just had my biggest month. But if you don't know how and why you brought that money in, it's the old beliefs that are going to control you. Like when people have bad months, you need to know why. Think about it. Like, say you're struggling making sales, right? And you have the limiting belief around who's going to buy from me, or I'm not comfortable stating my fees. You could take the greatest sales training in the world, and there are some awesome programs out there. There are a lot of sales coaches out there. But in the heat of that moment, when you are right in the middle of that sales conversation, when it comes to stating your fees and closing the deal, like what's going to have more power? Your old money story with all those negative beliefs, or that sales training that you just took? That old money story is going to drag you right back down. So I think the first thing any entrepreneur has to do is take a hard look at their beliefs around money, which is their money story. And you got to flesh all that out to move forward.
Yeah, I find that to be so key, because one of the major things that I notice is the notion of sabotage, especially skills where a person can sabotage their own sales by something as simple as, okay, this is what it costs, but you know, I can go cheaper, and they're already going in
Yeah.
negotiation.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed about that is that that really has nothing to do with the money at all.
No.
It seems like it's more about people approval than anything else.
Yes.
What would you think? What would you say about that?
I so appreciate that you said that. Absolutely. Because it doesn't matter if someone's charging $100 for their product or their service, or $100,000 for their products or their services. If they still are operating from the perspective, like you're mentioning, that they're seeking approval, they need the affirmation from someone else, you know, then their locus of control is outside. And we all know we are most powerful when our control is inside,
That
and
is so
taking that
true.
ownership back. You know, I want people to charge what they're worth. I want them to honor their value. Don't let somebody else decide what your value is, because that goes back to how you do money is how you do everything. You know, if you're letting potential clients or customers decide what you're worth, I'm sure there's a lot of other areas in your life, like the previous client I mentioned, that you're allowing other people to tell you if you have any value, if you bring anything to the table. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is. I can testify to that. One of the things that I notice um, too in working with service-based professionals are the ones that say, "Well, if I made $10,000 this month, I wouldn't have this issue." Or, you know, if once I make $1 million, everything is just going to fade away. It's just going to
Yes.
vanish. I'm not going to have
Yes.
any more problems in my life once I cross that $1 million mark. And every colleague that I have crossed who crossed the $1 million mark will look and laugh at anybody who thinks like, oh yeah, this is just where it all starts, and like we're all in this some paradise or something somewhere, never worrying about anything anymore. Take a moment and speak to that, what I call magical thinking, or that superstitious type of thinking.
Yeah, the magical thinking. It's also as if they're waiting to be happy. You know, to me that still keeps it external. I'll be okay once I have closed this many sales, or I have this much in the bank. I'll be okay. No, we got to be okay from the inside out. Because
Hmm.
again, like the law of cause and effect, you and I have talked about that. If you have a great month, but you're not looking at what caused it, you know, did you increase the number of sales calls that you made? Did you raise your fees? Did you ask for referrals? You know, you need to know why it happened, instead of that's almost kind of releasing all your control. As long as the money comes in, it doesn't matter how or why. Well, then how can you sustain growth? How can you scale a business if you don't know how and why that money came in the first place?
And you definitely can't command it if you
No,
don't know how it
right?
came in. And as you said it, all I could think of was that type of thinking is waiting for something to happen to you
Yes, yes.
versus you're actually being proactive and utilizing your power to create the cause that
Mm-hmm.
ultimately creates the effect for a being. I mean,
Yes,
this is
yes.
super powerful. I mean, you stop and think about it. If you're out there right now and you're saying to yourself, you know what, I can't get this business going, or I don't have the money to start that business, or you know, it takes money to do this or to do that, and it's just more money than what I have, or everybody's too expensive. Before you really break off into this tangent, yes, because services cost, but that's
Mm-hmm.
just the benefit. Like communicating value is what makes this world so popular. I
Yes,
mean, what makes it go round is the
yeah,
exchange of commerce. And so
yes.
I think when we're looking at it, it's a good idea to stop and say, okay, what's causing me to think like this?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Yes,
making me to think like this? I can tell you that like this is a very powerful conversation and one we could have for like months, you know, and really dealing with because
Yes,
it's
we
so
can.
vast. But I want to make sure we get the most out of this today. And what we're going to talk about next is literally uh, your yes go moment, Eleni.
Mhm.
What literally got you to this place? How did you pick up this knowledge? How did you gain this to get where it is that you want to go? We're going to address that in our next segment, so stay with us. But hey, listen, have you gone and checked out yesgo.live yet? We have amazing replays of videos and articles and things of the nature from entrepreneurs and just like Eleni, who's been on the show before and provided amazing insights. I would easily say there is 10 to 20 million dollars worth of value on that page alone. Make sure if you haven't gone there yet, go check out yesgo.live. And while you're
Mhm.
at it, join the Facebook community at
Yes.
the Yes Go show on Facebook. Yes Go I, on Facebook and connect with the community. We got some really cool things going on there. We'll be right back. But until then, you guys have just hang in there and get your notepad because we got some more stuff coming down the pipe.